when they find me. Don't be scared of yourself. Don't be scared of me. Don't be scared of yourself.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ashley.
We would like to welcome you to the Work It, You Are Worth It podcast.
Where two friends sit around and talk about healing, growth, and healthy relationships.
I will find you. You will ask, what will you do when they find me?
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Dawn. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good. How's the week? Been good? How's the
been
job?
Great.
Job's great, I'm sure.
Yes, it's great. It's a lot of information, but it's wonderful. I've enjoyed it.
Good. That's good. So I have to share something that I just kind of found very funny this week, and it really reminded me of early in my journey. I've met a group of women, and I really have been very excited about it because it's outside of recovery work. It's outside of CODA. So it's just literally some girlfriends hanging out, and I'm not having to do any, right? I'm not having to, look at myself and talk about myself and talk about other people and talk about CODA, and right. It's just trying to give some balance. But anyways.
Some fun.
Yeah, some fun. So we went out for dinner the other night, and I have not mentioned anything in detail about what my life consists of with CODA and recovery work. They know that I'm very busy during the week with meetings and meeting with different individuals and doing this podcast. And then we were talking, and somebody said, the one lady I know the best, she mentioned something about codependency, and I was like, I chuckled, and I explained to her, I said, what I've told you that I do is all based on codependency and the work I'm doing, and I've been personally in recovery and 12 steps for 4 or 5 years, and so of course everybody was very interested, and there was one individual. I noticed it immediately the first time I met them, that this person was I could see a lot of codependent tendency. It really reminded me of myself, in all honesty. So when they found out this is what I did, of course, then it turned into all these questions. And this person actually had asked for some examples. And so I gave them, trying not to use their situation at all. And unfortunately, they wanted more details related to their situation. So I did use some examples. It was so funny because the first thing was, I don't do this. I don't do that. I'm this. I'm that. I'm not that. I don't do that. I don't try to control. I don't try to manipulate.
The defensiveness.
And what I realized, and I guess I'm doing the work, I knew one of my biggest things was denial, which I think is a big thing for all of us. But it was so interesting to see how this person just immediately went to trying to justify their behaviors and denying any possibility that they could need to work on themselves, work on their relationships.
Well, it's funny, isn't it, that denial, one of the very first things, right? The very first thing we all go through in pretty much any situation is denial, quickly followed by acceptance, right? Because first I have to accept that the situation is real. I have to accept that this is happening. And before I can accept it, I obviously am denying it. Isn't that usually defensiveness is usually where we start when we're in denial? It's funny when you mention the defensiveness, because I think about anything someone says to me, if it's not accurate, I don't get defensive. I'm just like, that's what you think?
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
In my sickness, in my codependency, before my growth and my recovery, I would try to explain and prove them wrong, show that I knew what I was talking about, but I would never get defensive or angry. in when something was true, when someone would say something or point something out to me that was true, I would be in denial at the time about it. Therefore, I would get defensive.
Oh.
Like, oh, I don't do that. That's not me. But if I'm not in denial, I don't get defensive.
I remember my mom and I used to have back when these big blowout fights, and so much it was her. Like, I would call her out on stuff, of course, right, into trying to be superior and trying to be right, and she would just lose it. Like, right, she'd get so defensive. But when she did the same thing to me, I would immediately go to there as well. I did that. I've done that with spouses. I've done that with children, with my kids.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with my kids, it's like, oh, how dare my kids call me on something, handling myself or behaving this way or talking, you know, saying something, because I'm their superior, and there's no way they should challenge me on those things.
Right.
And in a way, that's as well denying the fact that my kids have their own way of thinking, and they might be right.
Well, right, especially when I'm getting defensive about it. If I mean, I've got 3 kids. If my 11-year-old comes out and yells and stomps her feet and tells me how unfair something is, I'm like, sorry, kid, that's life.
Yeah, right.
I'm not defensive about it. You think it's unfair, that's life, that's how it is, this is how it has to be. I don't get defensive.
Right. But
now, if my 11-year-old comes out and stomps her foot and says, you never spend any time with me, you're always at work, I'm going to immediately be like, I can't help it. I got to work to pay the bills. I want to be home and I'm going to get defensive.
Right.
Like, how dare you call me out on something that I don't want to hear? Because I know it's true.
Yep.
It's something I don't like. I know that I am at work way too much for my 11-year-old. You know, in her opinion, I'm at work way too much, and I know that.
Right. And she might not understand it now. This is where she's at. This is what she's feeling. Doesn't matter that she's 11, right? Her feelings are her feelings, and they have to be respected and honored. But at the same time,
I gotta work.
Right?
And the key is, right, I'm defensive about it, not because I'm in denial anymore, and I'm not so much defensive about it anymore. I would have been years ago. I was actually with my oldest and my son. I was very defensive about not being at home with them. I'm a good mom. How dare you say I don't spend enough time with my kids? It's not like I have a choice. And now my response would be quite different. Like, you're right, kid. I'm not home enough. I wish I was home more too.
Right. I'm sorry.
Maybe we can spend every Saturday together for an hour and a half, just the 2 of us. You know, like.
Right.
I'm not in denial about it anymore, so I'm not going to be defensive.
Yeah. So, thinking back, how did you get your awareness? Like, how did you discover that you were in denial? Like, do you remember a point where it was like, oh, wow.
So, let's talk about control denial. Denial of being controlling.
Mm-hmm.
For my family that's listening to this, they will laugh when I say this. From the time I was 14 years old is the very first time I remember somebody telling me I was bossy and controlling. From the time I was 14 years old until 2 years ago. From the time I was 14 years old until I was 38 years old, 37 years old, people told me all the time that I was controlling. Mm-hmm. People told me all the time that, like, you gotta let go a little bit, loosen the strings, give the kids some space, give Nick some space, my ex-husband some space. And I would shut them down. I'm not controlling. I'm just trying to help. And if they would just do the things the way that they need to, then I wouldn't say anything, right? If he would just do what he told me he was going to do, then I wouldn't say anything ever. How is that controlling? Like, right? If he would just go to work and have the bill money in the bank account, then I wouldn't yell at him to go to work. So how am I being controlling if he would just do the stuff that he needs to do? When really, if he's not doing the stuff that he needs to do, it's not my job to try to force him to do what he needs to do. That is controlling.
Right. Because
I didn't see that.
Right, because you can't change him. You get to decide what you do with it. But he doesn't put money in the bank. You get to decide what Ashley is going to do with that.
Why would I still rely on him to put money in the bank if he's not putting money in the bank? Instead of going to him and be like, don't forget the money. Did you put the money in there? Put the money in there. Move the money. You got to put the money in there.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't work that way. I mean, it does, but not for long.
It's not successful
and everybody
in the long
ends
run.
up miserable. So when did I get that awareness? How did that awareness come? So first I had to reach rock bottom because, frankly, in order to become aware of such a deep-seated issue as control, especially as deep-seated as it was for me, I had to be at rock bottom. I just couldn't see it. No matter how many times people pointed it out to me in how many different ways, from different perspectives and different angles, I couldn't hear it. Like, I heard the words that were coming out of their mouth, but I didn't believe it. I didn't see it. I didn't take it in. Even when I tried to examine myself, I was unable to see that I was being controlling. My ex-husband, for example, like, he was allotted X amount of money as an allowance out of his paycheck every week. And that was his money to do with as he saw fit. And when he got paid, that money would go into our joint account. I would take all except for his allowance. Like, I don't know what else to call it, right? I would take everything except that money that he was allowed, and I would move it over into my personal account so that he didn't have access to it. And that was how it stayed. That was how it always was for many, many years while we were married. That was how it was. And when someone would say, why are you taking his paycheck out of y'all's joint account and moving it into an account only you have access to, I would say, well, because if I don't, he's going to blow it. He's going to spend it. And they would say, well, that's controlling. And I'd be like, well, if you want to call that controlling, well, I don't think that's controlling. I got to make sure my bills are paid. I'm doing what's best interest of my kids. I don't think that's controlling. It took me until being in CODA, hitting rock bottom, going into a 12-step program, being willing to let go of every preconceived notion that I had about what was right and what I should do in order to see that what I was doing was control. Does that make sense? I don't like.
Oh, if you could see me over here, just like I'm like right, because like I'm jotting on these notes because for me it makes complete sense because like you're talking to a person that's lived their whole life from little up wearing a badge of honor by like control was a badge of honor for me. Oh, I know I'm controlling because I've been told that my entire life. I'm controlling. So I took it on as a badge, like of I'm controlling. It's my superpower. And I laugh because if people, like I would say that I control the bills. I control our bank accounts. Nothing went out of our bank accounts without me knowing it. And if it did, it was, oh God, the wrath came down because it was all about what I said was okay. So I didn't transfer, we had joint accounts, and if I saw something in there that wasn't, basically he didn't call and get permission. This was more my second husband than my first. If he didn't get permission, oh God.
Oh, I did that too. Oh yeah. You had your allowance, but then I controlled what you spent your allowance on. I look back now and I laugh because I don't like, I look back now and I laugh because I don't understand how I didn't see it. I lived it. I was there, but I still don't understand. When I look back, hindsight is 20/20, right? When I look back at myself at 22 years old and how I was with my ex-husband, like I timed how long it took him to drive from work to home. And if he was 10 minutes late, I allotted him 10 minutes for traffic on a 30-minute drive. If he was 10 minutes late, we had a problem. And it doesn't matter that I had reasons for doing it, right? Yes, he would show up 3 hours late. Yes, he would lie about where he was. Yes, he would go to the strip club and throw our bill money at strippers. That doesn't matter. The fact is, I was controlling. And I just couldn't see it. Like, I remember at 22, my dad telling me at one point, honey, if you don't let go and give him some space and allow him to be him, you're never going to make it. And I couldn't hear it. I could not hear what people were saying to me. And when I look back at it now, I'm just like, how did I not see it?
Because you were in denial.
I was denial. And
so
I was 100% in denial.
So it's so funny because I was very in control of my husband's and definitely very similar, right? Knew where he was all the time, was like, right? I mean, and we were both very much way too over the top connected, right? We didn't have outside lives. So it was very much
enmeshed.
Yes. What's so funny is the guy that brought me to Coda, my rock bottom, right before I hit my rock bottom, and there was the cheating, the lies, and the whole other family and stuff like that. I knew exactly how long it took him to get home, right? Because I had driven it. So I knew realistically it should take 45 minutes to get home. And there would be nights that he would call, he'd text me and say, I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, be careful, see you soon. And 2 hours later, he wouldn't be home. And I was also in denial about that because I should have, there should have been, hey, what's taking you so long? Why does this, right? But I was in denial about what was going on as well because I didn't want to see it. So denial works two different ways. Control.
Absolutely.
And denying the fact that I was so controlling, but going the other way where I was in denial about what was really going on because I didn't want to see it.
Absolutely.
And looking back now, it was there. It was painted.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Hindsight's 20/20.
How powerful is that? Denial. How powerful of a tool. Now, right, we're talking about the ways it has been used negatively. Denial is a powerful tool, right?
Yes.
How powerful is it that in the moment of doing it, we just can't see. Even looking back 10 years after the incidents happened, I look back and I still don't understand how. I understand why I didn't see it. Denial. But I don't understand how I was in denial because it was so glaringly obvious. And the answer is I wasn't ready to face it.
Right.
So had I faced the fact that I was controlling 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had the tools to know what to do or how to live without being controlling, right? So for me, control equaled safety, right? So if I knew what was going to happen and if I was in control, then I knew what everybody was doing and I was safe. If he was going to work and he was coming home, he wasn't cheating on me. If he was going to work and he was coming home, the bills were going to be paid. If he was going to work and coming home, then I would have a roof over my head, right? I would be safe if I was in control of him. However, if I wasn't in control of him, I wasn't safe. So I had to use denial in order to keep myself safe.
So I can remember the day I lost or I gained denial with the guy that brought me to Coda. And I actually when I went into this relationship, we were probably 5 months in and things just did not add up. Ray, I saw it. I actually took it to my mother and said, of course, because I couldn't trust myself, I had to go get somebody else's opinion. And of course, I went to the hardware store to get milk because I didn't have anybody else to talk to. I went to my mother with everything, right? She's my mother.
That's who you knew. That's what you knew.
Exactly. And she told me I was crazy. She told me, no, Dawn, you're just being, right, you're just, you're just looking for problems. You need to trust more. You just did it, right? And that moment, I went into denial. And I never saw anything, it's like I didn't see anything again. I sit here and I can say and tell everybody, I said this coming out of this whole thing with him, right? It caught me off guard. Because it did catch me off guard because I was in denial about what was really happening.
Oh, yeah. When I finally realized how controlling I was, I'll never forget. I was sitting in a meeting and I had been in denial for so long. I was sitting in a meeting and the control patterns came up. And we talked about them in detail, just the control patterns. And I was like, oh my God, I do that. And every story that was shared that night, everyone that shared that night, their example of control, I was like, oh my God, I have done that. I have done that. I've done that. How can I possibly say I'm not controlling when I've done all these things that all these people are calling themselves controlling for doing? So I couldn't, there was no reason to be defensive. Nobody was attacking me. Nobody was telling me that I was anything. All of a sudden, these people were calling themselves this for doing things that I had done. And now it was safe for me to go, oh, I did that. And it was like, when you're sitting in the movie theater and they have the previews, and then the screen goes black and you hold your breath for a minute and the lights all go down.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the movie screen pops up. It was like that, right? It was like these people sitting there calling themselves controlling over these situations. And they weren't saying, I am controlling. They were saying, I did this and this was controlling.
Right.
And by them saying that, it was like everything just kind of went quiet and I took it all in. And then all of a sudden the lights just came on and it was like, oh my God. That's me. I did this. And then it was like this movie reel of every situation of just how controlling and all of these times that all these people had pointed it out. And I was just in total denial about it, right? Even something like taking things personal. My first memory of taking something personal is I was, 3-4 years old. And my mom looking at me and going, you're always so sensitive. You always take everything so personal. Not everything is about you. I denied it then, and I denied it yesterday, and I denied it last month, and I denied it 5 years ago. I still, to this day, even knowing that I tend to take things personal, I still catch myself taking things personal. Denial is that strong of a tool, and it's meant to help us.
It's so hard. It's like, how did I not see it? How did I live and not see how in this place of denial? But I can't beat myself up about it, right? Because
you only know what you know when you know it.
Right. And
I am not going to get angry at my child because they do not understand that 2 + 2 = 4. I am going to sit down with them and I'm going to pull out 4 objects and I'm going to show them how 2 + 2 = 4. I cannot be angry at myself for being in denial. I cannot be angry at myself for not seeing the things I did not see. I can, however, pull out the objects and break it down and show myself, once I see it, how I did it, when I did it, where I did it. And then I can take that information and know if I do this, then I am being controlling. If I do this, then I am taking it personal. And I won't be in denial anymore. And that will create awareness. And that creates growth.
I remember early in my journey, really, especially once I kind of got this awareness, being patient with myself, forgiving myself, not chastising myself for taking so long to get to that point.
Yes.
And I think everybody goes through that, where it's like, man, Dawn, why was it so hard? Why were you so thick-headed? Why couldn't you have done this before? Why couldn't you, right? Because there's a freedom that definitely comes with all of this. And, you know, well, if you
God,
would
if
have
only I'd have known then what I know now.
Right? If I would have, I could have lived, instead of having 5 years of recovery and feeling free and all of that, I could have 10 years. But the thing about it is I wouldn't have been ready 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I was brought to CODA on June 26th because that was the day I was meant to come to CODA. That was when I was meant to go to my first meeting. Any time before that, I wouldn't have been ready. My higher power knew that.
Absolutely. Our higher power always knows when we are ready. And that brings up the other side of denial. So if I see someone who is living in denial and I slap them with the truth, hey, look, this is how it is. You control it. You're controlling and you're manipulative and you're telling people what to do. You need to stop it. And they're not ready to hear it. How is that going to do any good?
Exactly. Going back to this individual, right? I didn't go into this meeting these people throwing out, I'm in CODA, everybody's codependent, everybody, you should do this, you should do that. Right. When I heard this person speak and listened to her talk and could relate to her, I didn't tell her that she was codependent. I didn't call her out.
Right. And therefore, there was no reason for her to be defensive, right? You didn't slap her with the truth.
It wasn't my place to. It wasn't. Right. There was a time, if I would have went at her day one, never meeting this person before, bam, here you are, I'm going to call you out because I see it, what's that going to serve? But higher power had someone else use the word codependency for me to say, hey, that's what that's funny because that's what I do all week, right? I do a podcast on it. Then this person asked for the website, asked for where the podcast is.
Right. So, there's the difference is she didn't sit in her denial and you say, hey, here, go look at this. Hey, here's my example. You did this and you did that and that was this. No. She stepped out of her denial and she said, hey, I kind of recognize this. Can I have that website? Do you have some examples? Is this what this is? Can you teach me a little more on this?
Yep.
Right? And she was able to hear you because you waited for her to be ready. You waited for her to come to you about it.
Now, does that mean she will take it any farther than that one conversation? No. Does that have anything to do with me? No. If she comes back to me and asks for more information, I would be very happy, and I'm always very happy about talking a program, a 12-stroke program that gave me my life back. I'll talk about this all damn day. But I'm not going to, my job is not to chase her. My job is, if you ask, I will share my serenity, strength. Oh God, my mind just went blank.
Strength and hope.
Thank you. My mind went so blank.
Yeah. It happens.
Yes. I would share my experience, strength, and hope with her and give her my story. Not telling her, you did this, you do that, you do this, right? This is what I did, this is what I experienced, and this is how I found a new freedom. I found a new freedom. Yeah,
denial is a very, very powerful tool. And we've talked about the ways in which it can be used as a negative tool. What about the ways that we use denial in a positive way? I'm struggling with that as I say that because I'm not really sure of any examples.
Okay. I think it's about timing. All right, so there's plenty of times that I have been, I get faced with a situation and I might not be quite ready to deal with it. And I don't want to say that's denial, but I'm just not ready. So maybe right now I'm going to just block it, deny it a little bit, but it's not off the plate. It's it's not off the table. But what I am going to do is I'm going to hand it to my higher power and say, hey, I know this is something that I need to deal with eventually, but I'm not ready to right now. Can you hang on to this?
Yeah, that's not necessarily denial.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, I mean, and maybe that's more avoidance until muscle building.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like I know I got to get to the 500-pound weights, but I'm not going to go from no weight lifting straight to 500 pounds. I got to work my way up there.
Yeah.
Wow, I wish I'd have thought of this before we started recording.
I don't know, though. Maybe this is higher powers got it. Maybe there's a reason.
So the only way in which I can see to not positive, and I was hesitant on putting this out there, but so if as a child one was molested, or if as a teen or young, I don't care what age you were, that doesn't even matter. If at some point someone was molested or raped or hurt so traumatically that to accept this would cause my brain to shut down. It is just an emotional overwhelm. It is a nervous system overwhelm. I'm going to block it out of my brain completely. I'm going to deny that it ever happened. I have no memory of it. My body and brain just takes the choice from me and completely blocks it out of my memory. That is a form of denial. It is a subconscious denial, but it is a form of denial. True. I think that's a positive way that we use it.
It is. That is yeah.
I mean, right? If my nervous system is so, the trauma was so high, the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress is so intense that it would cause a disorder, then it's very possible that my brain will just block the memory from being there in order to protect myself.
I really would like, since we are, and it is a good example. It is a good example. Because, right, we do have to protect ourselves. And I think, I would really be interested to hear if any of our listeners have any thoughts or can think of another way that denial would be positive. Because I know, right, we are putting on the spot. I'm over here like, as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, my mind started like, oh God.
I think it's usually, right, I'd have to say it's typically usually a subconscious denial, right?
Yeah.
When I was 25 years old, I was in total denial of the fact that I was controlling. And the reason I was denying it then is because I wasn't safe without it. So subconsciously, I could not face the fact that I was controlling because without my control, I felt unsafe. So subconsciously, I was in denial. Therefore, my denial was trying to keep me safe.
So if the listeners, anybody does have any thoughts on a positive way denial could be used, obviously go to the website and go to contact us and send in what your thoughts are, and we'll read those in the next podcast or in a future podcast. Is there any other ways that you have used denial, right? Something popped into my head was money. Denying that I could have a shopping issue. I could denial that I don't handle my finances appropriately. I'm an accountant. Everybody thinks I should be able to handle my money. Oh, you're a pro. Oh, you're, right. It's what you do all day. You should be good at it. Well, that doesn't mean that's what I'm good at. I mean, right, my finances have been an issue my entire life because I have always been looking for instant gratification, and I could deny that. I have denied that my entire, from majority of my life. But in reality, I have mismanaged money in ways that I could have definitely been better at it. So that's one thing, another area I could think of being in denial about.
I would say I am in denial about the lack of physical health I give my body.
Yep.
Not that I don't eat, sleep, drink, right? But that I don't, when I feel sick, I don't take time off. When I feel like I need to rest, I go to work anyways. You're
not a superhero?
Yes, I do. I'm one of those people that takes pride in the fact that I don't call in sick.
Same.
So, right, I am definitely, and I'm even struggling to say this, that's how deep the denial is. But I am in denial about not taking care of my physical body as well as I should. I don't eat right. I don't drink water. I live off Mountain Dew. I might eat once a day, maybe twice if somebody's around at dinner time and I have to eat right. I don't take care of my physical body the way that I should. And up until today, I've been in major denial about that. I'm still in denial about it. I know it, but I'm not accepting it yet. Because in order to accept it would mean I have to do something about it. And I'm just not prepared to do something about it. So clearly I'm still in denial about it. So here you go, higher power. Throw that back at me again in a couple of weeks when I'm ready. I guess that is denial, right? Because I'm not avoiding it. I'm just still stuck in denial.
I'm very much was there as well. So you know my medical history, and I tend to always be in denial about things. So I go from 0 to 100 when it comes to anything medical. I've had staph infection 2-3 times. My body told me, right? Oh God, I can't even believe I'm saying this. Okay, so both times how I'm told, I don't drive right. One time I backed into a mailbox pulling out of my driveway. Not because I wasn't paying attention, right? My body was telling me, but I ignored it until it became this, something major would have to happen where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not feeling safe for me to get there. And then because I'm in denial about what my body is telling me. Because
something more major than backing into a mailbox.
Right.
In a driveway that you drive into and out of every single day for how many years?
Yeah. And
I get it though, because I'm the same way. Like I said, my body will be like, dude, you need a break. And I'll go and go and go until all of a sudden I got 103 fever and I can't walk and I can't breathe and now I'm dying.
And then it's funny because I'm so in denial with it, and I'm not anymore. Now I take what I need. But it was to the point where I would get to the point where I'd go to the doctor then when I wasn't feeling good, and my doctor would be like, Dawn, you got to go to the emergency room. Like, you shouldn't be standing. Let's call an ambulance. No, I'm good. I can get myself there. And I would drive to the hospital.
Right.
And
yep.
And then I would be out of work for a while, I'd be in the hospital for a week. Let's say it would be a week. I'd get out on Sunday. I would text my manager on Sunday night and say, hey, I just got out of the hospital. She knew I was she knew I was in, and I'm getting out. I'll go ahead and I'll log in tomorrow morning, but I'm just going to need to work from home because I have an IV in one arm because I had been in for a staph infection, and so I had a not an IV but a PICC line right in my arm to my heart.
Yep.
Trying to do antibiotics at home through IV twice a week or twice a day for a month. The other arm, I had elbow surgery because that's where the staph infection started. So I was in a cast, but don't worry, I'll log in tomorrow and I'll just have to work from home.
Yep.
That's denial.
Never mind resting.
That's denial. That's denial.
Yeah.
That is denying what my body was telling me. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break on this too as well, because my employer should have said no. But I don't know if I would have even listened to that. I'm okay. I'm good.
Right.
Right? I can move my hands. I can rest my arms. I just need to step away.
Yep.
For the home health nurse to come in and administer my IV for me.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's not though. I mean, it is. It's crazy that we would allow ourselves to get to the point where we are so ignoring what our body is telling us, right? Because if it were today, I look back and I say, I won't do that now.
No.
But I did do that, right? You did. We did. We did that. People do that every single day. And it's funny how much we would give for our jobs. And then, like you said, I've said it too, expect them to tell us, no, don't come work for me, right? Like, Don't make me money. Stay at home and rest and let me
Yeah.
pay you instead. Who would do that? They have to look out for themselves too. Of course they're going to let us work.
Right. You know, I got out of the hospital 3 days before my son graduated from college. In those 3 days, mind you, PICC line in one arm, cast in the other, on the other, and right, it was elbow surgery. So my cast was from my shoulder to my wrist in a sling.
Oh, jeez.
Right, and they had, anyways, the scar was 8 inches long. It was bad.
Yep.
But anyways, so I took my son shopping the day after I got out of the hospital because he needed clothes for graduation. The boy was graduating from college. Do you think he could have went to the store on his own and bought himself clothes?
You did that after work too, right?
Oh, of course. Come on, Ashley.
Right, so I get out of the hospital on Sunday. I go to work on Monday, take my son shopping Monday night, work Tuesday, probably did a meeting Tuesday night, and then Wednesday I have graduation. And lo and behold, I just got out of the hospital Sunday, but I'm okay.
Yeah. So I just made sure I wore a sweater that covered the PICC line on my arm, because I really shouldn't have even been leaving the house with a PICC line that goes straight to my heart.
God forbid the infection that could get into that.
Right. So all my pictures, you can't see the cast on my arm because, right, I had made sure that I stood on the side where my arm was behind everybody.
And you were in a sweater in June in Florida. Jeez, Dawn. But listen, right, that's what we do to ourselves. And we can sit here now and laugh about how intensely self-harming that is. But in that moment, all you felt like is, I can't stop. My son needs me. I can't stop. My job needs me. I can't stop. I'll be okay.
Exactly.
You actually weren't. It's kind of twisted the way this spins around on itself, right? In that moment, you weren't thinking about yourself at all. You were thinking about everyone else. But really, you needed to be needed by everyone else. So you were just thinking about yourself, that they needed you. Because, right, your son could have taken himself shopping.
Yep.
Your job would have been just fine.
Yep.
You could have spent Monday and Tuesday laying on the couch resting, and then gone Wednesday to this graduation happily, or gotten it on video. It's college.
Yeah. Because it's not like he didn't graduate from high school and is getting his bachelor's, graduated with his master's, and he's going to graduate with his PhD. So it's not like I haven't been, like I'm not going to see graduations.
Right. This isn't like a once in a lifetime we should risk our life for. But in that moment, it certainly did. One, I'd have to guess, it didn't feel like you were risking your life, did it?
No, I was just going to say, I would never have thought I was risking my life. That would have never even crossed my mind.
It didn't. But in fact, having a PICC line going straight to your heart that's open to the air in and of itself is a risk. God forbid somebody cough in that direction. And this line's going straight to your heart. You're already fighting a staph infection.
Right, and he didn't graduate from a community college. He graduated from a major university here in Florida. This auditorium, gymnasium, whatever, it was literally packed.
You definitely risked your life. And not only did you not think about the fact that you were risking your life, but also I'm sure in that moment there was no thought about what would be best for you.
None, because I'm a superhero. I'm powerful.
And at the same time, had you gotten an infection and died, how selfish would that have been?
Right? Because then I wouldn't get to even know my son is getting his PhD, right? I would have never gotten witness.
Your kids would never have you. They would never have you for the rest of your life, their lives, because you had to see him graduate from college.
Yep.
That time.
Now, the difference between then and that was a year before. No, 6 months, I don't even remember now, but that was right at the beginning of my journey. But nowadays, my knee hurts, I'm going to go spend 6 weeks in physical therapy.
Right.
Because my body is my vessel. You've said that in many of the podcasts, right? My body is my vessel. I need to take care of it because I only have one body. I'm only going to get one body. And I plan on being around for a while. And I'm 52 years old. I'm not going to be struggling with backaches and hip pain and knee pain because I didn't take care of my body. Just because I didn't do it for 48 years doesn't mean that I can't start now.
And that's right. That's the other side of this. And that's going to have to be another podcast too, is just because I didn't do it yesterday doesn't mean I can't do it today.
Right.
Just because I did it yesterday doesn't mean I have to do it today. For the first time last night, I told Nick after 16 years, I don't like it when you rub my back or my arm as I fall asleep. Can you please not do that? I was afraid to tell him that for 16 years. And I would lay there and wait for him to fall asleep while he was rubbing my arm as I inwardly cringed, like, please stop rubbing me. I can't sleep when you rub my arm. But I never once told him that.
And what did he say?
I said it. Oh, well, all right. I thought that you liked it. I won't do it anymore.
And he's probably over here for 16 years thinking you like it. And he's like, God, my arm is so tired. I just want to.
I'm sure.
Yeah. He's thinking you like
it. Crazy. Just because. Yeah. So, yeah. Him thinking I like it and me pretending I like it because I didn't want to hurt his feelings by saying I didn't like it. And all the while, all I needed to do is say, hey, I know I've let you do this for 16 years, but really I don't like it. Can you please not do that? And he now, oh, sweet, I won't do it anymore.
He's like, phew, good, I'm glad that's done.
Probably.
Well, thank you for sharing denial with me and everybody listening. Thank you for talking denial with us. Again, if you can think of anything, if you can think of another examples of denial, good or bad, please share them with us. We keep saying this. We want to hear from you. We'd love to answer your questions. We'd love your feedback. We'd love any critiques you would like to give. We definitely will share.
Or topic options.
Oh, yes. Topic option would be wonderful. You can do all that through the website, which is workitYouAreWorthIt.com. Share your self-care pictures, taking care of yourself, doing things you love, and make sure you check out past podcasts. They come out every Tuesday. And Ashley, anything you want to say in closing?
I've just truly enjoyed doing this with you, Dawn, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as we have.
Me too. So, all right, everybody, have a great week.
Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I look forward to next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
We would like to thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Visit the Work It website at workitYouAreWorthIt.com to submit your questions and topics for future episodes. And remember, work it because you are worth it.
I will find you. You will ask, what will you do when they find me? I will find you. Give the answer to your question. What will I do when I find you? I don't have to think, I don't have to prepare myself. When I find you, I don't have to think, I don't have to prepare myself. But I will find you to make things as they were once. But I will find you to make things as they were once. Don't be scared of me. Don't be scared of yourself. Don't be scared of me. Don't be scared of yourself. But I will find you to make things as they were once. But I will find you to make things as they were once. When I find you, I don't have to think, I don't have to